Hello everyone and welcome back to an NT Productions scripting tutorial. Today we're going to be going over the difference between scripting, extensions, and plugins. This is a topic that's very commonly confused. I get a lot of emails asking for help creating a script like Motion Bro or a script like Animation Composer, which is actually an extension and a plugin. So I'm going to go over the differences between the various different types of things you can create for After Effects, what they do, the different value they'll bring to you, as well as the different costs that they have associated with them. So let's go ahead and get started. And before we do, I want to go ahead and mention that I am back to posting twice a week, a main tutorial every Monday, and a quick tip scripting tutorial every Thursday. So make sure you subscribe down below to get notified of when those come out. So first off, let's talk about the difference between the three: scripts, extensions, and plugins. So scripts are essentially the things that you use inside of After Effects that help you automate processes. So for example, you can run any script by going to File, Scripts, and then going down to select whatever script file you have. So in this case, I have a script that will apply a custom-made glow to our clip. So if I just generate it, you can see with the script, we can instantly create an effect, create new layers, make effects on those layers, and do a lot of things like expressions and much more. So scripts basically allow you to automate processes that would take you a bit of time to do by hand in After Effects. There are limitations, of course, but in terms of the coding, you're using a JavaScript-based language called JavaScript Extended. That's why all of the script files you use have an extension of JSX or JSX bin. So again, they allow you to automate After Effects tasks, such as if you had, in this case, a custom glow effect that you need to apply to lots of footage, and you don't want to have to keep going in, copying and pasting the effects, or doing things like that. You can just program it into a script and apply it to any piece of footage, and it will appropriately apply it. And again, it will also speed up other tasks that you find boring or that you want to just not do, basically. And you can do this both in After Effects and on your system. So if you have a bunch of files and folders on your Mac or Windows, you can also use a script to batch modify those as well. And then another cool thing I like about scripting is that because you can use loops and iterate through things multiple times, is when you're creating some more creative type scripts, it allows you to add a lot of randomization in that each time you run through and say apply a glow or do whatever your script is doing, you can apply a lot of randomization to create unique effects every single time, and this will just help keep everything fresh for you. So scripts are pretty straightforward. They use one programming language, and they have many uses, everything from, like I said, applying a glow, and I even have a script here that will generate music notes. It just creates a bunch of layers and applies a tone to it and just creates random music. So there's a lot of possibilities with scripts. Let's move on to extensions. Extensions are sort of the next step up, and they're basically a website with a script built into it. You use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and XML coding to create your extension, and then inside of it, you're going to use that code to run a script. So you can have a nice fancy UI that looks like a website and then run a script from it. So this obviously is a lot more complicated, but offers a lot more possibilities. So in order to run extensions in After Effects, you just open it and go to Window, Extensions, and then you can go ahead and load up your extension. One most people are familiar with is called Motion Bro, and when I get emails asking about extensions or how to create them or anything like that, Motion Bro is always what's mentioned. So this is, for example, an extension. It doesn't look like the typical script UI with the usual sliders. We have a lot more animated things going on, custom UI buttons, custom colors, fonts, and that's what extensions really allow you to do. It's having a script with a serious, basically web backend. You can even use things like jQuery and PHP, and everything goes on and on down the rabbit hole. So those are a lot more complicated, but it's essentially a script being run from HTML. The reason a lot of people like to do this is it gives you a very much better visual element of things. Scripts are very limited, and typically it's best just to use still images, and even then you have to usually have them, in a folder nearby, which is kind of a pain when you're installing just a single script file. Extensions also allow you to use external libraries such as Node.js and AngularJS, and these just really allow you to have a lot of customization and modern looks and animations. And then another cool thing that's cool about extensions is that they're really more cross-platform than scripts are, in that you can run extensions quite easily in both Premiere and After Effects. You do have to make sure you have cross-platform scripting capabilities before you do it, but I can easily, in a manifest file, the XML, specify which applications you want the extension to run in, anything from After Effects to Premiere to Illustrator. If you could think of an idea that would work in all the programs, you can create the extension that will work in all the programs. So extensions are the next step up from scripts. Basically, it's a script file, a JSX file, plus some HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and XML, and any other web backend stuff you'd like to add in addition. So whether or not you're experienced with all those types of coding and scripting and programming, you may need to hire more people to create an extension, or actually be charging more if you're creating one yourself. And lastly, let's talk about plugins, which are sort of the final frontier of the After Effects SDK and that sort of backend type of deal. There are extended or hybrid plugins, which is basically an extension that uses a plugin. A good example of this is Animation Composer, because this is an extension UI window, but it uses custom-made plugins and applies them through the extension, sort of like how it runs a script usually. Instead, it's running plugins and applying them to your layers. So plugin is obviously sort of the final frontier. It uses C and C++ coding, obviously more modernly using C++, because C is quite an old language, but a lot of the tutorials and the very limited knowledge available on the internet about it is in C, so it's very beneficial to know both. I personally am not super into plugins yet, although I am getting into it because it's very difficult and I'm quite busy right now. But the abilities that come with being able to make plugins is incredible. Essentially, you have the ability to use GPU or CUDA processing, which can seriously increase the speed that you process things in After Effects. Something that would be impossible scripting may be a breeze in plugins. For example, analyzing individual pixels along the screen and checking the color values and then applying certain filters to all of those. That in scripting can be very difficult to do and very time consuming and sometimes even impossible. So plugins really allow you to go down to more of a system level, access the CPU in a more memory intensive way, and have quicker access and processing to things. And again, just like extensions, plugins are usually cross-platform in that they'll easily work in Premiere and After Effects. In fact, I think most simple plugins automatically will work in both, as long as there aren't any specific functions or properties that are just in the After Effects SDK external to the Premiere Pro one. And of course, plugins are the most powerful. Everyone knows Video Copilot. You have color vibrance, which allows you to do incredibly powerful things to images without just applying a simple tint or glow. You have Element 3D, which in itself could be its own application. The ability to create primitives, import 3D models, have realistic physical shaders with customizable bump maps and everything, and the list goes on and on. There's just so many possibilities with plugins, and it's essentially free to create whatever you want. So finally, let's go over the pricing differences for these three types of things you can make for After Effects. Let's go from the lowest to highest, just as we have been. So first, looking at scripts, well, if you look at most script markets, such as Envato or VideoHive or AE scripts, the prices are going to vary quite a bit. When you're looking at lower-end scripts professionally, most people will sell them on websites for around $15 to $30, but when you're doing freelance work, you're writing the scripts yourself, you're going to want to charge more, around $50 to $250 for a script. And that's for like a low-end, relatively simple script that will take you anywhere from 2 to 20 hours. Because you always have to assume there's going to be some problems. The person you're writing the script for may want something that's not possible, and you have to find a workaround, or there's lots of other roadblocks you could experience. Now, when you're looking at the high-end level of scripts, there's a lot of expansion things you can do in terms of scripting, in terms of extensions and plugins. There's a lot of ways you can expand to make things more complicated and make it like a suite of products and very valuable. I would say on the high end of scripts, I would charge anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. And that is basically for a script that is everything. It might have multiple tabs with multiple different features in it, such as like completely different scripts built into one script, and might have capabilities to, say, connect to the Envato API or do things like that. So there are some high-level scripting things that are possible, and 1,000 to 1,500 would obviously be in that range. I would say there always are going to be exceptions. There could be scripts you could make for cheaper, for $10. You could just be doing a couple of simple things, make an easy script, easy money. You could be making a script even more complicated than I could possibly describe, and you could charge $5,000 for it. But in general, a low-end script, $50 to $250, and a high-end script, $1,000 to $1,500. Extensions are just another big step up because you have to write about 5 times as much code, and the amount of troubleshooting and problem solving you have to do is also going to increase significantly. This is an extension I have worked on myself. I did the coding for it, and we basically are selling it for a decent price, $36, which is basically middle road if you're just selling it in bulk. But I would say for a low-end extension, a simple extension that might include something like this, a simple UI where you have maybe a couple tabs, a simple logo, and an ability to scroll through and bring in elements to your program, I would charge anywhere from $600 to $1,000 as a flat fee for that. Any extra big features like adding Envato API connections or anything like some serious packs that you can add instantly and it will instantly recognize them. Those big features I would charge a couple $100 for any big feature. But $600 to $1,000 I would say for a low-end simple script like that is a good call, because you also have to realize there's going to be a lot of roadblocks just like in scripting, and you need to make sure you have that covered as well. And then once we get into the high end of extensions, we're getting more into subjective ranges of pricing. This is when you start getting into how complicated and how much trouble do you want to go through. You can have a designer that makes an incredible UI, and some web designers charge, $10,000 just for the design of a website. So you can really go as high as you want. But in general, for a very, very high-end extension, we're talking one with just amazing capabilities, a very slick UI. It's got very nice custom UI. We're basically talking about Motion Bro here in terms of a medium to high-end extension where you have custom panels, custom icons, nice colors. The animation style is very unique, and the UI is very unique as well. It's a standalone product, almost as like a Video Copilot plugin. For this, I would say $2,000 to $5,000 for a very nice medium to high-end extension. Because you have to realize you're going to have a ton of JavaScript coding to write for animations and connecting everything together. You're going to have lots of scripting to write to make sure everything in After Effects is functioning correctly. You're going to have a lot of CSS to design. You're going to have a lot of HTML to design, and the list goes on and on. So again, $600 to $1,000 for a lower end standard extension, and $2,000 to $5,000 for a high end. And lastly, let's talk about plugins. As I said, I'm not really one that's creating plugins currently, but I am somewhat familiar with the market, and if you have any corrections to what I have for pricing or opinions, of course, go ahead and leave a comment down below. But these are just what I have noticed through my experience. So if you're looking at a low-end plugin, a base price is going to be anywhere from about $2,000 to $5,000. The reason for this is you're writing very complicated code. The way you're testing it is very tedious, and basically a plugin at the simplest level is very complicated and also very powerful. So you need to respect that price, because the developer is going to be spending a lot of time in very nitty-gritty, difficult to solve things, and there's not really anywhere that they can get help. Like, there's a couple of people online you can reach out to if you have serious plugin questions, but plugins are really the final frontier in the Wild West of After Effects currently, and you're doing God's work, basically. And you're doing really important work when you're writing plugins. You're doing things that basically people haven't even touched before, and you're shaping the future market. So basic $2,000 to $5,000. And then again, it starts to get into subjective territory as you talk about high-end plugins. I'm sure Video Copilot plugins like Optical Flares or Element weren't really written for less than $5,000. Of course, they're only selling them for $100 to $200, But when we're talking about developing it, it's probably going to cost anywhere from 10 to 20 grand. And again, as you enter this high-end art world, people are going to have totally different levels of understanding. Some people might find that preposterous and demand that they only spend $100 to $1,000 on a plugin, and you'll either have to turn them down or accommodate to what they want. There's also the opposite end of that gamut or spectrum, and that is the people that are going to say, $20,000. I have a budget of $50,000 for this plugin. I'm ready to be like Video Copilot. So there's definitely an entire spectrum of people. You need to just find what niche you fit in, whether you're making scripts, extensions, or plugins. You might find a specific topic within that you're really good at. And once you find that, you can start finding the customers that need what you can create. And once you've found that, you can lock in on one of these price points and start create scripts, extensions, and plugins for clients. So I hope that answered some basic questions. I might have gone into more depth than I expected, but I wanted to describe the differences between scripts, extensions, and plugins. There are some smaller intricacies to the differences between them, and sometimes even telling the difference inside of After Effects can be difficult. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. I enjoyed making it and compiling lots of information about the different products online. So if you enjoyed it, of course, leave a thumbs up, subscribe down below to be notified of when new videos come out every Monday and Thursday. And of course, as always, we'll see you next time.